So yes, phonetics, phonology, those are the subdisciplines within linguistics that are primarily about sound. As we're going to unpack this concept right now for you. So, oh, come on, do something. Can you all see the screen?
Yes.
You can see the screen, huh?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes.
awesome. Okay,
Yes, sir.
good, good. That's very good.
Yes.
Okay, got it. I got it. So basically, what is linguistics? Okay, so let us start off by defining linguistics. So basically, I mean, if you ask a lot of people what linguistics is, even if you ask the professionals, even if you ask us, even if you ask, I'm a linguist, even if you ask me sometimes what linguistics is, I might perhaps in attempting to answer you, I might start off by scratching my head first in trying to think of an answer. Sometimes I would know I would know as a linguist, I would know what linguistics is, but I'll be trying to dumb it down for a lay person, the concept of linguistics, that is. It's sometimes very hard to dumb it down for a lay person. And so sometimes the professionals themselves have a hard time sometimes explaining what linguistics is. And so, but there is, as you're going to see, there is a definition of linguistics, of course. If you're going to go to Google, or if you're going to go to a dictionary, there is that universal definition of what linguistics is. But of course, that definition of linguistics is one of those definitions that are normally followed by more questions, because sometimes for most people it's actually not very clear. So for some people, if you tell them what linguistics is, sometimes they become even more confused. They might have more questions than answers after getting the definition of what linguistics is. There was one book that I was reading some time ago. So the author of this book said that if he got $1 every time people asked him what linguistics is, he said that he'll be a very rich man. So he said, every time I get $1, every time somebody asks me what linguistics is, I'll be very rich. So that actually speaks to the observation, to the fact that not a lot of people know what linguistics is, and for those that know what linguistics is, sometimes they have a hard time describing it to other people. So this professor, every time when he explains to people what he does, people will be scratching their heads and they'll be having more questions than answers. But for our purposes here, as we are studying, for our purposes, this is how we're going to define linguistics. Okay, this is the definition of linguistics that we are basically going to use for our purposes in this module. And of course, this is linguistics, the scientific study of language and its structure. So that's when we're using science to study language. That's basically what linguistics is. See it as a scientific study of language, right? Linguistics, it's using science to study and understand language. That's what linguistics is, right? And this is almost like a universal definition of what linguistics is. This one right here. Yeah, so again, this is the kind of definition that you're going to find in most dictionaries. It's a most general definition of what linguistics is. Okay, so again, as I've mentioned, there are many subdisciplines within linguistics. So linguistics is a discipline, it's a very large discipline itself. But then within linguistics, under linguistics, there are also subdisciplines as well. So within linguistics, we have a subdiscipline that's referred to as phonetics, another subdiscipline that is referred to as phonology. These two subdisciplines within linguistics, that is phonetics and phonology, these two subdisciplines are primarily concerned with sound in human languages, right? So in linguistics, if we are studying sounds, if we are studying sounds in human languages, we employ this concept or these phonetics and phonology in understanding the phenomenon of sound within human languages. But of course, there are other subdisciplines as well, such as morphology. So now morphology, what is morphology? Morphology is actually looking at the smallest meaningful units within language, smallest meaningful units within language. So what are the smallest meaningful units within language? So if you have the word car, for instance, so the word car is a singular in its own, but that word car can be a plural. So what's the plural form of the word car? The plural form of the word car is cars, right? So basically, so now, if you have cars, if you have the plural form of cars, now you have two meaningful units in that lexical entity or in that word. In that word, you have the word car, and then you have this or the S at the end of the word car, which marks plurality. So the smallest meaningful units in the word cars, or one of these, there are two units there. One unit is the word, it's car, and then the other unit is the plural S, okay? So if you are speaking about morphology, we're looking at those small units that carry meaning within language. So under phonology, or rather under morphology, if we are looking at the word cars, we will study one meaningful unit of which is the noun car, and another meaningful unit that marks plurality, of which is the letter S. Okay, so morphology, studying the smallest meaningful units within language. Morphophonology, another subdiscipline within linguistics. So here under morphophonology, that's when we mix. It's a mixture of morphology and phonology. Okay, so it's a mixture of sounds within languages and studying sounds within languages along with the smallest meaningful units that carry meaning within language. And then another subdiscipline within linguistics is what we call syntax. Okay, so syntax is primarily concerned with the grammar of the language. Syntax looks at the relationships between words and sentences. Syntax looks at the relationship between phrases within sentences. So syntax also looks at a relationship between sentences in sentences or within text, right? So basically, again, so under syntax, that's when you look at some things such as nouns, verbs, and what the adjectives, and the relationship of those things within a sentence. Right. We also got semantics under linguistics, and semantics is primarily concerned with meaning. So semantics looks at meaning behind words, So for instance, the word girl, okay, that's the word girl. But what is the meaning of girl? That's where semantics come in. It studies the meaning behind the words. And then we have got what is called pragmatics within linguistics. Pragmatics looks at language and the context. It looks at meaning and the context. So for instance, this is what pragmatics is primarily concerned with. Let me just give you an example. So basically, if somebody walks into a room and the person says, "Ooh, it's cold in here," and then the person in the room stands up and then closes the window, right? So what is going on there? What is going on here? So the person that walked into the room, she did not say that it's cold, please close the window. No, she did not say that. She came into the room and she said it's cold, but then the person in the room stood up and then closed the window. But then the person who's cold did not say that the window must be closed. But the person in the room interpreted that statement, even though it was not a direct statement. The person in the room looked at the statement made by the person walking in the room in relation to the context, that is, in relation to the room, and then interpreted the sentence, the utterance, in the context of the room, or within that particular, within the context, in this case, the context of the room. So that's what pragmatics looks at. It looks at language, utterances, sentences in relation to the context. Pragmatics looks at the sentences or the words as they are uttered within particular domains or within context, because the meaning of words is not necessarily only within the words themselves, but the meaning in almost all situations, the meaning of words can only be interpreted within context, under particular context. Then that's the nature of language. And sometimes if context does not necessarily it doesn't refer to maybe to a room. So a room is something that is tangible, but context can also be something that is abstract. Context can also be politics. Okay, so language interpreted within the context, within the political context, or academic. So the contexts are not only tangible, but the context in language are also abstract. So that is pragmatics. And then we've got what is called psycholinguistics, that is looking at mixing psychology and linguistics. So looking at the language in the psyche, in the brain of the users, of the speakers of the language themselves. Corpus linguistics, that is taking a text, a corpora, or a collection of text, and using that text to study language. So corpus linguistics, this is how corpus linguistics work. This is how corpus linguists study language. They'll take maybe a text from maybe a book. They'll take all the words in that particular text, and then they'll study those words. They'll look at those words in the text to try and find whatever it is that they are trying to find, or try to find whatever it is that they are looking for. Okay, so corpus linguistics, using a collection of text to study language. That's what corpus linguistics is. And then there's discourse. So language is very, it's very complex. It's not very simple as it might perhaps initially appear to be. And then there's something that is called a discourse within linguistics, that is looking at language in communication, language between two people speaking, looking at language in text, that is discourse, looking at language in politics, language in academia, language in sports, languages in schools, and so on and so forth. So that is what primarily discourse under linguistics basically means. And then we've got psycholinguistics, a very fascinating area of study. So psycholinguistics, that is looking at language and the society. And I mean, there's a lot of work that has been done under psycholinguistics, particularly also in a South African context as well. A lot of work has been done. For instance, there's some work under psycholinguistics in South Africa that enjoys much, that enjoys conspicuous appearance, if I may put it in that way. So there's work such as isihlonipho, for instance, in the context of South Africa, that in the literature, in the academic literature, that that kind of work, and isihlonipho enjoys a lot of there's a lot of work, a lot of studies that have been done in that topic, in that topic of isihlonipho.